fellowship program, and I have the privilege now of speaking with Russell Healy, who's been quite active in our community. So Russell, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, thank you very much for having me. Well, I'm a husband and a dad to 4 lovely children, and we now live in the beautiful city of Tauranga in New Zealand, which is a long way from anywhere. Since COVID-19, we've been homeschooling our 4 children, so that keeps us pretty busy. And for work, I continue to sell the Get Kanban board game, but that was really affected by COVID-19, as you can imagine. So together with my business partner, I'm now developing an online edition of the game, which is going to be really exciting and much better than the printed version, much better. So my background, I studied computer science and business at university, and I love the fact that being a software developer is the closest thing to being a magician, because whatever software system you can think of, you can build with enough time and effort. But software development is really hard, especially when lots of people are involved. There are just so many degrees of freedom. And so Kanban is a key ingredient to managing this kind of work in a way that's compellingly good for all stakeholders. So once I got my hands onto Kanban, I didn't let go. It's really a core part of what I do today.
That's awesome. So how did you encounter Kanban in the first place? What was what brought you in?
Yeah, well, there are some moments in your life where you remember exactly where you were when something happened. Well, that was how it was for me when I first saw David Anderson's presentation on Kanban, the one he gave at Agile 2008. For me, it was June 2009 when I saw that video. I had had a lot of success implementing Scrum on several projects. And at the same time, I'd been reading a lot about Lean and the Toyota production system and things. And I was dissatisfied with the time boxing mechanism that we were using in Scrum and looking for a better way to achieve lean flow. And I was racking my brains how to do it well. And then I came across David's presentation and I was riveted. It was exactly what I was looking for. So I got in touch with David. He sent me the early manuscripts of the blue book that he was working on at that time. And I devoured those. Strangely, at that time, previously I'd had so many projects going on, so many teams working on things. It was like a great glass house to work in. But at that time, I didn't have much going on with the teams for whatever reasons that were beyond me, some financing thing or something, I don't know. So I didn't have an opportunity to use Kanban so much, but outside of work, I was invited to various forums to give talks and training classes and things, and all I would talk about was Kanban. But I'm not much of a talker. And I don't like speaking much, so I thought, how about I make something where people can experience it and learn firsthand? So I made this little Get Kanban board game, and it really took off. It was a hit. So soon after this, I came to a Kanban masterclass at Dana Point in Southern California with David, where I learned tons. And I demonstrated the game there over lunch, and I didn't really think much of the game at that point. I didn't have much confidence or anything. But David suggested that I should sell it, and he'd like to be my first customer and buy a couple of copies. So, I asked him how much, and he gave me a decent price too. So I thought, hey, there's something here. And so soon I went back to New Zealand, and the orders just started rolling in, and the living room started filling up with my operations, and the rest is history.
Awesome, that's great. So you've been at it for a while, even more than the 10 years that Kanban University has been in existence. So in what you've seen over your period of time, how has Kanban and the Kanban community evolved over the last 10 years?
Yeah, well, I'd say no doubt there's been a lot of advance and maturity, solidification of those ideas that when I started out were just sort of pretty nascent. But to be honest, I haven't been as involved as I would like to have been. I've got a lot of catching up to do. I'm really happy there's so much material available, so many books and videos and so many things. I just need more time in the day to get into them all.
That's right, you're a busy guy, I know. So on the story of Get Kanban, many people have played, enjoyed, and learned a lot from Get Kanban. Tell us your favorite Get Kanban story.
Well, a couple of things. One time I was playing it with a team at ThoughtWorks Australia, really smart people there, and they quickly saw, I think they might have had a bit of experience with Kanban already, but they read the cards and the tickets and quickly figured out the mechanism for winning the game, and that is short lead time. And so they minimized WIP. They had about 3 or 4 tickets on the board at any time, and they flew across the board in like a day or something. And so they were getting 30 subscribers per ticket. So they really figured it out, and I was really impressed. I wish I'd recorded the score. Another little anecdote was there's a lovely tester in a real life team that I was working with, and he was using sticky notes for defects in exactly the way that we were using them in the game, and he was even correcting people as to how to use them, perfectly. But it didn't quite work for us in real life. But anyway, I found it charming.
That's great. So beyond the Git Kanban world, you've also been a Kanban practitioner. You've done some very interesting story that you had about how you used Kanban to help with disaster relief during the Christchurch earthquake. Tell us, how did you use Kanban? Did you make any changes? Did you use what called you to use Kanban in that situation?
Yeah, well, the situation was this: there was an earthquake that was right under the centre of Christchurch, which is New Zealand's 3rd largest city. And so the government was really concerned that, of course, we had a humanitarian or sort of a civil problem with looking after people first. But soon after that, we had an economic problem looming, where all of those businesses would potentially cease to exist. So the government really wanted to keep those businesses and employees going as long as they could, in order to allow them to move out and re-establish in another location, because the city had basically had red tape around it for, 18 months or something. And still, even now, I think something like 6,000 buildings came down permanently. Anyhow, so given the urgency of the situation, so for me, I wasn't involved from the Friday when the team started, but I came in on the Monday, and at that point the project manager was unable to continue. He hadn't slept for 3 or 4 nights, and but anyway, when I arrived, it was pretty chaotic. It seemed people were really, really busy and things, but there wasn't much method to the madness, and you'd have 2 or 3 managers over the shoulder of each developer, and not many fingers on keyboards. Like I say, lots of business, but I saw it wasn't going to keep going that way. So anyhow, given the urgency and the personalities involved that I knew, and the fact that I was joining a project already underway, if only by a few days, I felt that it was inappropriate to burden the team with a new process and a new name and new things to learn and all that sort of thing. So they would have rejected Kanban out of hand. So I didn't use the K word, and I didn't feel that if I put WIP limits up, that would have worked either. They would have sniffed out Kanban. They knew enough about Kanban to know that's what it was. So instead, I deployed what we now call proto Kanban, but with a twist, and the twist is the thing that really matters. So on a whiteboard at the entranceway to the development team area, I drew up what we all knew to be the workflow, and I applied a per person WIP limit of 2. So each person had their name on 2 sticky notes or avatars, and these would be attached to the work items that they were working on. And we expected that most of the time, only one of these sticky notes would be in play while the other sat in the parking lot. The twist, and the thing that was really important, was an additional rule that no ticket on the board, no work ticket, should be without an avatar. So that way we constrained the work to between 1 and 2 items per person, closer to 1. And so we had a well-defined workflow, and we had, in a sense, a sort of flexible conwip sort of a system, but it wasn't conwip in that it wasn't a fixed number. It was really limited by those avatars plus that rule. But at the same time, as we had an established flow there, established workflow of defined stages, the team members were able to work anywhere it was necessary to get the work done. And so, because, I wish that I'd recorded the flow efficiency. I don't think that I was even aware of that concept at the time, but I'm sure it was really high. On average, the lead time from business stakeholder decision, every morning we had a business stakeholder meeting, and decisions were made on the things that needed to be in production the next day. And so on average, the lead time from business decision to production was less than 2 days, because it would be out the end of the following day usually. We released a production on average 1.5 times a day. Over the course of the project, there was one escape defect to production, which was fixed within 30 minutes and had no impact. So the productivity was through the roof, extremely high, and the quality also was extremely high, which was incredible. The team worked very hard, and sometimes they were burning the midnight oil at times to help their fellow New Zealanders, but they were never overburdened. They only ever had one or two things to focus on. And also they received almost instant feedback on the work from the next person in the workflow. Because our work was so small, as soon as something was finished, the next person would work on it pretty much within, half an hour or so. And so if there were any issues, the conversation was about something that was really fresh in the previous person's mind. So for that reason, quality was incredibly high. So I saw the incredible potential that Kanban had to offer there, and I was delighted to have been a part of it. About 3 weeks, one more little note, about 3 weeks into the project, one of the developers on the team overheard me talking about our Kanban design. And he came over to my desk and he said, "But we're not doing Kanban, there aren't any whip limits." And I asked him if we were doing those time box things that we used to do. And he said, "No." And I asked him, "Are we getting overloaded like we used to do before we were doing those time boxes?" And he said, "No." And I asked, "Well, why not?" And he said, "Oh, we are limiting WIP. We are running a kind of Kanban system. It's just a stealthy one." So he gave me a big smile and got back to work, happy to be laser focused and rid of the overhead that had come with that previous process.
Oh, that's fantastic. Great story. How are you working with Canva now? I mean, obviously you have these ideas of you're going to be pulling Get Canva together on an online version and just other things you might be just curious about.
Yeah, so of course I use it myself and everything. My business partner and I have been building a visual management tool for a few years now, which has Kanban as a key concept in it. And so we use that tool to manage our own work, and we use Kanban in that all the time. Actually, we're pretty mature sort of Kanban users, so it's ingrained in us. We don't work on more than one or two things at a time. We keep finishing and we keep deploying, really rapidly and things. So, but that project's on the back burner while we work on our Get Kanban online. I'm also, I've got a contract on the way, hopefully, to do a bit of Kanban work with a local business. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
You've been around for a long time. What do you value most about the Kanban University community?
Well, I'd say Kanban University provides the best training that there is available, and as a result, the caliber of the accredited practitioners and coaches and trainers and consultants is the highest available on the market. So that gives Kanban University an outstanding reputation, and that's the reason I'm happy to be associated with Kanban University and honoured to be recognised for my small contribution.
Well, thank you so much, and congratulations on being named a fellow at Kanban University. You've made some great contributions, and really happy to have you today.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Right. Excellent.